Okay, there are good things and there are bad things that you can do when you're having a healing conversation. There are things that you can do that can encourage a healing conversation, and then there are things that you can do that can discourage or they can shut down a healing conversation. And we call these things roadblocks. There are 14 roadblocks to a healing conversation that we're going to walk through pretty quickly. So let's start. If you've got some pen and paper, jot these down as I'm sharing them with you. Okay, the first roadblock is ordering or commanding. This is when somebody is telling their story and you tell them, "Wow, you know what? That is over. That happened in the past, and here you are today. It's over. It's over and done with. You need to get over this. You need to put this behind you. You need to let this go." That's ordering and commanding, telling them what they need to do, and it's just not helpful. The second thing is threatening or warning. This is a little bit like ordering and commanding, but there's another edge to it. It's telling them that if they don't stop this behavior, we're going to kick you out of this camp. I'm not going to be able to work with you anymore if you keep acting like this. If you keep talking about how you're afraid, we can't move on. So you're threatening them, you're warning them. Now, certainly we do need to have time for discipline. We need to give them structure, but it's how we do things that is going to make all the difference. So threatening and warning is a third roadblock is preaching or moralizing. You know, I hear that you're dealing with a lot of fear, but you know, if you just knew Jesus better, if you trusted Jesus more, you wouldn't be afraid. These feelings of sorrow that you're having, you know, Jesus can heal all wounds, and you begin to preach at them. It shuts down a healing conversation. Fourth roadblock is advising or giving solutions. You know, all you need to do to feel better is whatever. You know, if you want to get over this, you need to start going to church more, or whatever it is. We will. When we offer solutions or advice to the person who is hurting, it shuts down the healing conversation. The person who has the problem is the person who has the solution. Okay, the fifth thing is trying to persuade or argue. It's a lot like giving advice, but this is the point when they don't want to take your advice, and so you keep pushing, you keep trying to persuade them to do what you need to do. Don't you think it would help if you whatever, and you start to use all these manipulative ways to persuade people. Not helpful and will really damage a healing conversation. The sixth thing is judging or criticizing, blaming. You know, you're really not thinking clearly about what you've gone through. You know, this terrible thing happened to you because whatever, and you put the blame on them for what happened. Very, very harmful to a healing conversation. Okay, the seventh roadblock is praising or agreement. Now this is tricky because we want to be encouraging, right? But if you give too much praise or agree too much with what they're saying, it can be harmful. So let me give you an example. A kid's sharing something and they seem pretty happy about it, and you say, "Wow, you're doing so great with this. I can't believe how resilient you are. I can't believe how much you've bounced back from this thing." The happiness, the joy that they may be showing, it might be a mask. They might be covering up what's really going on in their heart. And if you praise them for having such a good attitude about something, it can shut down the conversation because then all of a sudden they think that they need to keep wearing this mask to please you. The eighth thing is ridicule or name calling. Now, none of us would do this, of course, but it can happen. It can happen sometimes. So a person's telling their story, and they tell you that I was so afraid that I wet my pants. And then you start laughing at them. "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you wet your pants. What a child you are. That was so silly to do that." And you make fun of them. "Oh, what a coward you are." Whatever. Absolutely will shut down a healing conversation. All right, number 9, the ninth roadblock is analyzing or diagnosing. Well, your problem is that you have PTSD. Whatever. We are not in the business of analyzing or diagnosing somebody. We simply want them to tell them or to tell us their story, to share what they've experienced. The number 10 roadblock is sympathizing or reassuring. Somebody's telling you the story and you say, "Oh, you're going to be just fine. I know what you've been through. I know how you feel." Um, uh, that will shut down a healing conversation. The 11th roadblock is probing or questioning. Now, there are ways that you can ask questions about what somebody has been through. You ask about facts, you ask about thoughts, you ask about feelings, you follow that roadmap to a healing conversation. But if you ask too many questions, it's going to look like you are like you're pushing them, you're probing, you're pushing them further than they want to go. Um, uh, and so it's important to slow down, take your time, and the tone that you ask the questions is very important. The 12th roadblock is sarcasm. "Oh, wow, I can't believe you saw somebody get shot. That sure would ruin my day if I saw that." A lot of people use sarcasm, especially if they're feeling uncomfortable. They will use sarcasm as a diversion for themselves. Well, the kids will pick up on that, and it belittles their thoughts and feelings. The 13th roadblock is silence or distance. We can use silence as a tool for listening. We can have pauses. If there's a quiet moment, we don't need to be afraid of it. But this is more about body language. This is more about being present. This is more about somebody's telling the story and you're looking off or you're not paying attention. It creates this distance. It's about body language. Are you crossing your arms and looking bored, or are you leaning in and engaged? So that can be a roadblock. And finally, the last roadblock is this guy right here, the cell phone. If you're working with kids or anyone who's hurting, you want to turn this thing off, put it in your pocket. Don't look at it. Don't be looking for some kids talking to you. You're at the park and you're looking for that Pikachu, and you're going to catch that Pikachu. Obviously, not appropriate in a healing conversation. Do not be reading text, Facebook, any of those kind of things. And cell phones are such a part of our lives that it's easy to forget what a distraction it can be. Okay, so to help us to process this, we're going to do an exercise. We're going to pair up two people, and each of you are going to share a story. And the other person is going to listen to the story, but you're going to use as many of these 14 roadblocks as you can. And so here, I'm going to give you a scenario. Here's what you're going to share. You're going to tell a story about a time when you were afraid, and here's the scenario. You were walking home, and it was getting dark, and you still had a couple of blocks before you got home, and somebody was walking behind you, and it made you nervous, and you began to walk faster, and they walked faster, and then all of a sudden you began to run. You just freaked out because this person was following you, and you ran home. You were so scared. That night you had a nightmare about what had happened. So I want you to share that story, and the person who's listening, try to shut down the conversation with as many of these roadblocks as you can. The reason we're doing this is I want you to see how it feels when you're trying to share something with somebody and they are preaching or moralizing, they're giving you advice, they're on their phone, whatever it is. See how that feels and see how easy it is to share when somebody keeps putting up these roadblocks. So you do that for maybe 3-4 minutes and then switch, and the other person can share and then the other one can shut down the conversation.